Go, Sarah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is the meeting of the Marine and Freshwater Quality Committee. It is November 22nd. Thank you for all coming and anyone out there watching. The first item on the agenda, we invited George Meservey to come to just do a very brief update on the Uncle Harvey's Pond alum application, the final report, and also anything he wishes to share with us regarding wastewater and the next steps following the fall town meeting. And so I welcome George and take it away.
See you all.
Thank you.
I don't have a mask with me. I hope that's okay.
It is.
So I'm here to tell you that we did get a little bit late, the final report on the Uncle Harvey's Pond alum treatment. Per the report, the work went well. Let me just give you a quick summary, because I intend to file this with the Conservation Commission to get a certificate of completion, because right now the 13 property owners on the pond have the equivalent of a lien on their property. There's a notice on their property, and should it sell, there's an open order of conditions. Because that was recorded against all the property owners because it's not in Great Pond, so they own a piece of the pond. So we're anxious and kind of glad that there were no real estate transactions while this work was going on, because it would have been complicated. So the work was done in May 27th and 28th of this year, per the order of conditions issued by the Conservation Commission. And prior to that, Solitude Lake Management installed a barrier to keep the turbid waters that were treated with the aluminum sulfate, the two chemicals, which are liquid aluminum sulfate and sodium aluminate. They mix together. You use one basically to buffer the pH of the other. So they installed the barrier curtain on May 21st. They did the work on the 27th and 28th. And then throughout the summer, there were periodic post-treatment samplings, and the curtains remained in place, as you probably all know, throughout the summer until the dissolved aluminum level in the pond dropped back to its pre-treatment level. That was not confirmed until the August 10th sampling. And on September 2nd, right before Labor Day, the barrier was removed. So from the contractor's side, this project went very well. It was more complicated than any they have ever done on a pond because of the need to cut out two pieces of the pie of the water sheet and
Right.
maintain the distance. But it was all done. It was done half one day, half the other. I think they've met all the conditions that were imposed by the Conservation Commission. So I think that CONSCOM has a pretty busy meeting on December 6th. So we're going to aim for their next meeting to bring this matter before them so that we can seek that certificate of compliance. This is probably the only non-Great Pond that will be proposed for an alum treatment, because first of all, there aren't that many, and somehow this became a public priority through public discussions because this pond was in such bad shape. But if there is an alum treatment proposed or needed for some period of time in the future, it's probably going to be on one of the Great Ponds. And as you probably know, a Great Pond is owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. A non-Great Pond, all of the abutting property owners will have riparian rights to the center point of the pond. So I think that's all I need to say to you. I'd be glad to try to answer questions if you have any.
So, through the chair?
Yes.
So I think the reason that got a priority was because it has public access. So most of our smaller private ponds don't. I mean, some do, certainly, but most don't. So with luck, they'll be less complicated.
Yeah, right.
So this really isn't a final report. This was the application report that CONSCOM requested. I had thought there was also a 1-year and a 2-year follow-up.
Well, we haven't reached that milestone.
Right,
That's
but
being done under separate contract with the University of Massachusetts, who will sample the pond and report back.
very unusual to grant a certificate of compliance before 3 years have passed. So
yeah.
that's another
I think we can take
whole-
that up with the Conscom.
Yeah.
I'd hate to saddle property owners. Maybe we can have some ongoing conditions that accrue to the town's responsibility, but not to the property owners.
Okay, that's a possibility. And so in that report that will go to Conscom, and I assume will come to this committee as well, so that we can see it, are there pre- and post-water column phosphorus levels?
Right, there are.
And do you know them offhand? Or just
They're-
curious.
They're not meaningful to me.
Okay,
Humble town planner,
Oh,
they had to change the detection limit because the amount of aluminum was so low.
no,
But
not aluminum, I'm sorry, phosphorus.
Phosphorus. I do not have, I don't think that's in this report.
but SMAS would have that information.
SMAS has that from their sampling
And
that they do.
and I know that they
But it's not
sampled
part of this,
last
it's
month.
not part of this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know they sampled last month, and their boat is still in our yard, so they may be going out again.
Anecdotally, the Secchi depth was significantly improved last time UMass went out there.
Yes, as is dissolved oxygen. Carolyn, you also had your hand up?
I was going to say, is there a written copy of that that's available to read?
Yeah.
Or is it posted online, or,
Glad to send it up. I don't really necessarily need to post it online, I don't think,
okay,
but I'd be glad to send it to you all.
thank you.
To the committee? Thank
Yeah.
you, George. And you mentioned that this would probably be the only non-Great Pond to ever receive an alum treatment. I'm assuming that if it was a private pond and private owners wanted to consider that as a management option, they would go through the same process privately with Conscom, and,
Right.
because there are some others that sometimes have cyanobacterial issues, but I just never say never. So,
Right.
but
This
as
was the
far as
first.
the town is concerned, this is probably the last one, yes. Okay.
Yeah, the town generally focuses only on public property entirely.
Yeah. And it was closed by our Board of Health also, so that was.
Right.
Did you have anything you wanted to say about, the fall town meeting, wastewater, next steps with regard to Pilgrim and Crystal and
Sure,
Uncle Harvey's?
Since the fall town meeting took place, the consultant, Tom Parise of AECom, met with the select board and talked about the need to move this forward. I actually have a draft scope of services that we're still working on that talks about how they will identify and study the freshwater pond wastewater service areas. And looking at upgradient areas of the ponds primarily, but, the entire study area, whether it be Uncle Harvey's Pond, Pilgrim, or Crystal Lake, those are all in groundwater basins that are nutrient loaded for, overloaded for nitrogen too. So when they look at this, we want to make sure we're considering future removal needs. And also, you want to make sure that if there's a need to go further beyond these neighborhoods, that we have sized the system correctly. Most of this work is going to be about sizing the system correctly so that future decisions can be enabled by the town.
So this is a scope of service for a consultant? to
For
come in?
AECom to do the work,
For
yes.
AECom. I thought this was for a wastewater consultant.
$250,000 was approved for a wastewater, a sewer system management plan, master plan.
Okay,
$100,000 was approved for a wastewater coordinator.
okay.
And I don't know the status of that, but I think that's pretty imminent, that the town will be seeking a consultant to come in and help us through these issues that can kind of get sidetracked because there's no single person responsible for moving them forward.
So you've been working on the scope of service for the.
For the fresh
what we
pond
had
work,
on-
I assume that
Okay,
was what you wanted to
excellent.
talk
So,
about today.
Yes, yes, and not for the consultant.
Right, right.
I heard it in reverse, that's why I
Okay,
was just,
right.
that's why I was questioning that. That's great, thank you. Yeah,
And I
that's-
think the prevailing wisdom is to hire a consultant so you don't take on another full-time position in the town long-term
Yeah,
for that
I-
wastewater coordinator.
I agree with that,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think there's short-term needs and there's long-term needs.
Right, and this
And
may
a
be
consultant, I
a
think,
3
speaks
to
better to
5 year
the
hire,
short
I don't know. We'll see how it's
See
put
how it
together.
goes. Okay. So, yeah, the piece of this too that I think is always interesting is, yeah, you sewer the upgradient, which helps in terms of phosphorus removal for the freshwater pond and nitrogen removal for the estuary.
Right.
However, you're already getting some natural attenuation reduction of nitrogen by having the water go through the freshwater pond. So then you're really looking at a net. It's not 100%
Right.
lowering of
Right.
that. It seems like every time we turn around, it gets
Right.
a little more complicated, just to keep things interesting.
And once in a while, I hear AECom mention PRVs related to Crystal and Pilgrim Lake, and there is no appropriate or no benefit from that, because where they're proposing to put PRBs in the future would be upgradient of the downgradient properties that are most impacting Crystal and Pilgrim Lake, so.
Yeah.
I've
Hopefully.
been repeatedly assured that even though that occasionally gets mentioned, that
Yeah, I-
PRB that was envisioned for
Right.
upgradient of Pilgrim is off the table. But you might know, George, we had Bill Brotherton here, very interested in Mill Pond.
He's actually here with us. I
Oh.
see him on TV there. Hi, Bill.
Good morning, Bill. So can you just tell me, I did note that there is a possible PRB for Roberts Cove, nothing for Mill Pond. Do you happen to know why? Nothing was looked at for Mill?
I don't know specifically why, but they had a set of review criteria. There was depth to groundwater was a big part of it. The amount of nutrients you catch in the catchment area
Yep.
per, for the cost of the project. So I can't tell you why that didn't make the cut, but
Okay. I sort of assumed that, but I wasn't really sure. And at our last meeting, there was discussion about Mill Pond. I went back and checked. And Carolyn, they were in the original CWMP, and they still are. There was no change to that. So Mill Pond is still, as our CWMP stands, slated to be sewered.
yes.
But again, what our consensus plan said was that all alternatives will pretty much be ruled out prior to proceeding with sewering. That's not a quote, but that's kind of the approach, utilizing adaptive management to move forward. But that is, it always was in there, and it still is. Mill Pond is definitely not excluded from
I think some of those things will come to a head in the next 6 months to a year as they look at Tonsett Road, whether it makes sense to sewer that instead of putting in PRBs. There are some limits to the PRBs. There's the efficiency of them, and then there's the fact that when you place them, you only get what's coming in the groundwater catchment area that you've boxed in. And if you use public roads or even private roads, you don't get the shoreside properties who are the great beneficiaries of water quality improvement, but their nitrogen still goes into the water body.
And it's still not 100% removable, those areas.
Yeah,
It's a high
80% is the
percentage.
nominal target
Yeah, so,
number, yeah.
Which is good, but it's not 100.
Sometimes it does not accomplish the removal goal.
Right.
Can you mentioned depth of groundwater. Can you give us a general feeling what you're talking about there? Some of us who are not quite groundwater depths.
You're fine.
I can tell you that where the groundwater is too close to the surface, like the Rock Harbor Road watershed, where you'd actually use Rock Harbor Road as a PRB placement area, that doesn't work. I am not even going to attempt to get into some chemistry that won't be helpful to either of us.
I believe it's because it becomes inundated with
Right.
salt water.
I knew this question, but I don't have the answer on top of my
Well,
head.
I'm not so much asking about solutions as to exactly how do you figure out where the groundwater is, how much is coming at what depths and
So,
all of that.
the state, the Cape Cod Commission mapped the groundwater table of the town. So we have groundwater contours that were developed using 120 different wells throughout the town.
Right. That's
so-
the watershed.
That's the watershed.
But it's the
Oh, the depth
depths,
of-
the
oh.
depths of
Depth of
things
ground-
that
we actually-
are
we-
puzzling me.
USGS, no?
Uh,
the initial
No,
one?
the state, the Cape Cod Commission.
was the commission.
Did a groundwater table evaluation, and then that is corroborated with all the test wells that are going in around where PRBs are proposed. They're putting in a set of 3 sampling wells, so they'll get the groundwater table exactly what it is at that location. But generally, there's a pretty shallow gradient from the highest point in town down to the water bodies.
Well, with respect to Mill Pond, you made a mention that it doesn't look ideal for PRBs. I don't exactly know why.
I can't answer that right now.
We
Yeah,
we can put
Be
PRBs
glad
on
to
the
try to.
agenda for another
Yeah.
meeting. We're kind of wandering off.
Probably that
Yeah.
it's too deep. That if you have to go 100, 200 feet
sloping.
down,
Right,
it's
they're
too
not
costly.
not appropriate
Yeah,
if
the highest point in
groundwater
town's about
is too deep.
110 feet above sea level, but there is a limit to how
Yeah.
deep they can penetrate with the emulsified vegetable oil that they.
I guess what I'm asking for is an education on.
I guess you're asking the wrong person.
Maybe we
Okay.
put that on a future agenda
Yeah,
and
get-
ask
get
for someone,
somebody-
maybe
Can Ed
from,
Quigley come, or is
Yeah.
that too much of a cost?
There'd be significant cost to have Jim Bugley come down.
Okay.
Tom Parise? Could he ever,
Let me see if I can find the basic criteria that's used to evaluate PRB locations. That might be the easiest way.
okay.
There's probably some presentations. They would still be online. There's some select board meetings from the past that have been very helpful with all the stuff on PRBs.
I'm sure we'll
Get
get some
more into
additional
it, yeah.
information.
Could-
Carol?
Okay.
I apologize for this being a slightly tangential question, but a couple of months ago, in the Briar Spring neighborhood, there was, I believe it was AECom, but I'm not sure, putting in something called test wells, which they didn't know what they were for. And they said, well, you'll read about it in the paper. I never read about it in any paper. Is that part of the Cape Cod Commission mapping?
No, that's part of the PRB location analysis that's being done right now.
Okay.
It's the step before final design of how the PRB
So
should be
that's
put in.
specific to the PRBs?
And once they have all the information about exactly what's going on under the ground and the containment area, and you can do a cost benefit of whether this makes more sense than other alternatives. And then there's, they've looked at a 30-year cost benefit or a 60 or 100, because, a sewer system lasts 100 years. So it depends on how the townspeople want to look at who pays and when for what. But I suspect there are some locations where public sewering is more advantageous, even though we have tried to avoid it up until now. We've looked at every alternative. These alternatives may not be as shiny and perfect as we had hoped.
I think there's also been a lot of building and renovations in that Mill Pond area, so that you've got some very large houses on the hillside to the south side, I guess, of Mill Pond. And some new houses going in there. So the neighborhood certainly has changed since those reports came out 10-plus years ago.
Yeah, the CWMP was based on the nutrient removal requirements for the existing nitrogen load at the time that was done. It was updated in 2016 for Pleasant Bay, and Nauset has not been updated, but all new growth needs to be
Added
have the
in there,
pollutant
and
removed
there's a
from
lot
the
of it.
water. Yeah.
So that was all from existing flows? It wasn't, I was recalling that it was a 20-year lookout to what was developed, what could be developed. It wasn't that,
I don't believe that was matched up for the PRBs.
okay,
Yeah, no, they were looking at.
Not for the wastewater
current-
plant.
Current nitrogen load.
not for the wastewater plant either,
No.
the CWMP, okay,
No,
thank you. It's
it was-
many
no, it
years.
exist, yeah.
Many years and a
You and I
limited
sat at a
memory.
lot of meetings.
Maybe we need a short update at some point, kind of, boy, it's been going for years, so maybe it's in the future, we can,
The wastewater primer.
yeah, sort of the,
That'd be great.
this was then and this is now, and how we got there.
Right.
you know.
Judy, to Carol's comments, so they actually put in wells right in front of my property, not immediately, Jason, but in a sort of a circle. And And they also did them in a number of other spots around our whole community between Port Minicut and Namaquad. And they were pretty knowledgeable.
Oh, yeah.
I did get a chance to talk to them
Yeah,
several
because
times.
I stopped and.
Yeah, once they
asked
found out I
and-
knew something about it, it was interesting. So
Yeah.
I not only watched them dig the wells, but I've also watched them do the sampling and some of the challenges they've had.
Yeah.
And they seem to be very knowledgeable. So maybe we can figure out something to even have a demo or, if we knew when they were coming, you just stay out of the way. And you can actually watch the whole process. It's very interesting.
And I think one of the advantages or nice things about an adaptive management approach to all of this is it's also possible to do combinations.
Yeah.
So, there may be some areas in town where you're looking at really impaired waterways, but they're very, very far off the beaten path for anything that would make sense for soaring. So maybe you do a PRB, and 30 years from now, you switch it over to a sewer, if and when that looks feasible.
Just think in
Buy some
terms,
time, if you will.
the downtown sewer area under construction is the most cost-effective the town will have, because it's the most
Right.
users closest together.
Right.
In terms of feet of pipe per connection,
And closest to the wastewater plant.
right? So everything else is less cost-effective.
Right.
So that's why the town is being very judicious in trying to
Right.
be careful about where it spends its money.
I promised George we would not keep him here long, otherwise he won't come back. So are there any other questions for George while he's here? George also did bring copies of the draft final
Thank you very
management
much.
plan
Sure.
for Baker Pond, which we're going to talk about next. But this is just sort of an initial discussion. Next month, I'm proposing that we dedicate a significant amount of time for the meeting to actually go over, after we've had thorough review, and provide comments, list of questions for Mr. Eichner, and then hopefully have Mr. Eichner come in and do the presentation in January. That's my proposed timeline, if everybody agrees with that. I believe that's part of their contract, right, to do
It
the?
is.
Yeah,
It
okay.
is.
And there will be a public, also open to the public for their input also. So, and also, Mr. Brotherton, I know you're out there. If you could hold your comments until the public comment period, if that's okay, if you have any comments, I'll hear from you, I'm sure. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
George.
George.
Thank you all.
And thanks for
you.
making
Thank
these
you.
copies.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, have a lovely day.
You as well.
Okay, so, any other discussion on what, the first item on the agenda that we just went over with George? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the Baker Pond draft final management plan. As most of you probably have been around for, but a few of you are new. This is a process that the town has gone through previously for Pilgrim Lake, Crystal Lake, Uncle Harvey's Pond, and also quite a ways back, we also, the town did one for Cedar Pond. These are management plans based on collection of scientific data and review of all sorts of different past historical data, as well as collection of new data. And then they come up with recommendations, and then we review those recommendations, and we submit our recommendations to the select board. I know you haven't had time to read the entire document, every word, but I thought we'd at least open up some initial discussions today.
Yeah, I picked mine up Friday so I could have some time over the weekend to go through it, and I will admit I had time for nothing more than to read the executive summary 5 times. Because after 5 times, I was still scratching my head. This one's complicated. This
Yes.
is going to be very interesting, but very complex. I perused the rest of it, and I found it, again, very interesting. There will be, I'm sure, many, many questions. I was glad to hear you mention Cedar, because when Ed mentioned that Orleans has 3 great
I
ponds,
knew you
I
were going
kind
to
of
say
went,
something about that.
no,
He keeps-
Orleans has
he
a
keeps
great
I
pond."
doing
wanted Ed you would
that.
say something about that.
So,
Yeah.
and then I thought, well, maybe Cedar is smaller than 10. I thought it was
No.
better than 10.
No, it's
No, it's a
because of
great
its
pond.
present salinity status, so.
Okay.
That's the
That's-
only reason. We do, I think, still officially have four great ponds according to the state, but salinity has, as you know, increased in there, and until it returns to a brackish system, I suspect it will be treated differently.
Okay, enough said, we don't need to get that.
Okay, all right.
It was Baker's ours or Brewster's?
Both. It's more in Orleans, and there's a small amount in Brewster.
We can't fob it off on Brewster then.
Sadly not.
If you look at
So-
page 49, for example, there's a map,
Yeah.
and there's a north-south, if you will, line, mostly toward the western shore. That's the line, the town line.
See this right here? This is the town line.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
Yeah, I did see
on
that.
42,
Yeah.
it also by color coding shows you, and properties, shows you Brewster versus Orleans. And I do think, but, again, I think we need to do a lot more work on just what needs to be done. But when I look at this, there's not a whole lot of properties. I think in his report, he even mentioned some 10 to 13. It's probably 10 to 13 Orleans, but there's also some from Brewster in terms of upgradient contributing properties. And I do think that this is one that has some really good potential for the two towns to work together. And Brewster is also in an interesting position of needing to do nitrogen reductions to Pleasant Bay. This is the watershed that through Crystal and then also a piece of it through Pilgrim gets to Lonnie's Upper River, Lower River.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
that-
there's some potential. I just think that there's some things that can be done in terms of getting complicated, but getting the two towns together to do a more cost-effective approach than otherwise might be possible.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was getting at. Is there a Brewster organization comparable to
Yes, there
ours
is.
who are getting the same management plan and combing through it?
I don't know if there's a town committee in Brewster,
Yeah.
but I do know that there's the Brewster Pond Association.
Yeah,
So,
but that's not a town, yeah, I'm
Okay,
thinking
so
we need,
Ed-
we need an official, like, town organization to work with. I don't think it will work any other way.
okay, there is an official organization. It is the only, Pleasant Bay Watershed has the only state wastewater permit that is multi-municipal. So instead of the Pleasant Bay watershed permit going to Orleans or Chatham, or all four towns hold the permit through the Pleasant Bay Alliance. And the Alliance has been the clearinghouse, and there is a watershed plan that gets updated every 5 years. That is the group, that's the means by which nitrogen flowing into Pleasant Bay gets controlled, monitored, kept track of, and
Yeah,
each
but
individual
I'm only
town.
talking about Baker's Pond right now, and.
Right.
And I don't know, if we go through our analysis of it and make our recommendations, and then at some point Brewster says, no, we don't like that, or whatever, so I just worry about that, and I don't know to what extent they said, okay, we'll let you take the lead on this.
Well, that would be the select board that would work with the
And-
town of Brewster.
Yeah,
Brewster could not say no to what Orleans wants to do, and Orleans cannot say no to
Right.
what Brewster wants to do. So this is different than Uncle Harvey's, as George was explaining. Who owns this pond? It's the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Orleans doesn't own it, Brewster doesn't own it, the property abutters don't own it, the state owns it. And so there is only the requirement that they meet water quality controls, and however the towns individually wish to accomplish this, they have only to clear that with the state. I just feel where there's the potential to collegially, is that the right word, work together, there may be potential for saving both towns some money and doing a better job of cleaning up this pond.
well, I guess that's what I was trying to say. I don't want to do the work without Brewster knowing what we're doing.
Oh, and they would,
They would.
yeah.
The question is, at what point do we share this with them? And
Right.
I would also like them to share with us, though it's not the town that's doing it, the cyanobacteria
The APCC.
work that they've been doing, which is being done by volunteers, but
Yeah, that should be up on the website for APCC.
Yeah.
Probably Brewster Ponds as well.
Do you see that data at all?
It's, I haven't looked at it. It's at APCC. They send out a report, an email report where they generally tell you. So I think Baker's had one instance of a concern, but not a warning.
But there's no, like, summary report of the season?
There may be.
I can contact Joanne, Dr. Miramoto, and ask
Yeah.
her about that. Oh, see if I can get more info.
So this kind of thing where we can look at multiple towns working together, I think is a really good opportunity for a consultant, a wastewater consultant for the town too, because these things, they take time, they're complicated. I mean, it's hard enough to get one town to get its head around a wastewater
Well,
plan.
If Judy's plan, which we all seem to like, was next month, we were all going to make more comments. And then the month after, you were saying, Brian, estimate people would come and do a presentation.
Ed Eichner, yes, and I'll make sure that Brewster.
Knows about it and
Yes,
and sends their
yes.
people, and that way
It-
we can
Well, we
get the collegial
will
business
encourage
going.
them to
Yeah.
have somebody come.
Yeah, okay.
Judy, they used to, I don't know if they
Yeah.
still do, but they used to have a town committee. I mean, not just the private group of Brewster Ponds Coalition, but there used to be a municipal committee in Brewster looking at water quality. I don't know if there still
I
is.
don't even know, that goes way back to when the Johnsons were.
Way back.
And then Bob Mant was their natural resource director, and I don't know the present.
Chris Miller?
I don't know him, but is that who it is,
Yeah.
Chris Miller? Okay.
Chris Miller.
So I'll make
So-
sure that,
I will say that I think because Brewster has so many really significant large freshwater ponds, and actually so little marine shorefront. I mean, their only real marine shorefront is Cape Cod Bay. Their focus has always been on freshwater ponds, and there is great interest in freshwater ponds, and there is great commitment to freshwater ponds. So
oh,
I
yeah.
think they would really welcome any conversation and dialogue with Orleans about improving.
Yeah, they're a pretty active group.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I've made some notes for me.
Thank you.
Robert?
Yes. Oh, Bob.
Oh, Bob, sorry.
either
Take me a
way's fine.
while, I'm trying to memorize all the people.
Does the Coastal Systems Group provide the backup evaluation of data and calculations for their reports?
You mean the raw data?
No, well, how they, for instance, estimated costs. I couldn't find like a standard system that they use for a direct comparison. And it seems like selective parts of the remedies have been left out, like sewering. Well, it costs $10,000 per house to connect to the sewering, but there'll be additional costs to get it to the system. And I would suggest that the additional cost to get it up to Eldred Parkway, West Road, would be the substantial amount of the cost.
Oh, I'm sure, and it would be AECom that would conduct such an estimate from the engineering side of things.
So we don't get the economic analysis, and this really isn't helpful.
I don't think that was the scope of their contract, but
Okay.
it's
They-
certainly a question that you can ask Mr. Eichner when he does the presentation, or ahead next, when we
Yeah, I'll-
send questions to him, that we prepare next month.
Because he references it,
Yeah.
you're right, Bob. I'm sure he'd be glad to explain how he did
'Cause
that. But again, interestingly, way back in 2003, 4, or 5, the early days of the original CWMP, there was a preliminary plan for Baker. It did not go forward into the final original CWMP. But I thought, again, in terms of thinking out of the box thinking, Mike Giggy was the consultant that we worked with on that. And Mike was absolutely genius, I think because of the amount of work that he had done in places like Africa, where there was no infrastructure to build on. He was really good at coming up with creative solutions and approaches. And what he had for Baker was to take about 10 upgradient properties and see if those septic systems could not simply be put onto a shared septic, a shared
Cluster?
leaching field.
Cluster system type thing?
Kind of,
Yeah.
but there wasn't going to need to be any treatment, because basically all that was happening was you were removing the phosphorus input to the pond, just moving it out of the watershed.
Yeah.
So it would then leach outside of the watershed and do no harm. Now, as it turns out of the watershed on that side, I think where it was being looked at, that eventually the nitrogen could reach some of the Pleasant Bay systems. But I wonder about taking an approach like that and using then one of these newer layer cake septic leaching fields that are very shallow, heavily organic material that have been found to be quite effective in reducing nitrogen. So that's low cost. That's, your quote, small pipe where you're leaving septic systems in place. You're going back at some point and keeping them pumped, but you're getting that septic effluent waste out of the watershed to Bakers, and you're also doing some really low-tech, cost-effective nitrogen removal for the rest of the system. Put that together maybe with some Brewster properties, because I'm not sure, but it might all be able to be gravity to nothing but a small drip. That would require power to
Yeah,
establish
similar to
a
what they
shallow
had in
drip
the,
system.
was it Pond Coalition presentation?
It's very preliminary, but there are things that can be done looking at it. So you're right, when you say, well, this is the cost to sewer, what are you talking about with sewering? Are you talking about a traditional big pipe system that would connect to Orleans, or are you talking about a cluster, or maybe not even, something that's a really low key? And that may have been what Ed was referring to when he mentioned some phosphorus reducing septics.